Giant traditions across ancient civilizations. This is part 3 of my series on giants. So let's just dive right into Mesopotamia, Sumer and Akkad. Some of the earliest giant-like figures appear in Mesopotamian mythology. You have the Epic of Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh is described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. He is depicted as extremely large and powerful. Then you have Apkallu from Sumerian sages. They were semi-divine beings said to have taught human knowledge. These stories occur in texts dating to about 2000 to 3000 BC, and they already contain themes of hybrid beings, divine rulers, and a great flood. In biblical traditions, the Hebrew Bible contains some of the most famous giant references. First, it's the Nephilim. They were mentioned in Genesis 6 before the flood. They were described as mighty men of old, men of renown, and later texts mention giant clans. The Anakim, the Rephaim, and the Emim. And the most famous example is Goliath, who, according to these texts, was over 9 feet tall. Though some manuscripts do say it was probably closer to 6 or 7 feet. Then you have Greek mythology. Greek myths describe several races of giants. You have the Titans, which were the older gods who ruled before the Olympians did. You have the Giantes. They were earth-born giants who fought the gods. And then you have Cyclops, a massive one-eyed giant associated with forging weapons for gods. These myths describe a cosmic war between generations of beings. In Norse mythology, giants are called Jutnar. They are primordial beings who existed before the gods. The world itself is said to be formed from the body of the giant Ymir. And Norse myths often depict giants representing chaos and gods representing order. And then again, in Celtic mythology, giants appear through several ancient races. Fomorians, they're described as monstrous or giant beings, often associated with primordial chaos. Then you have the Tuatha De Danann, a powerful race of beings who battled the Fomorians. Then you have Finn McCool, who was a giant figure in Irish legends. These myths preserve stories of ancient supernatural inhabitants of the land. So what are the patterns that most researchers notice in this? When traditions are placed together, a repeating pattern occurs. 1, you have a primordial race of powerful beings. 2, there were conflict between the gods and the giants. 3, a catastrophic flood or destruction. And 4, humans inheriting the world afterward. And this pattern, it literally appears in Mesopotamian texts, biblical traditions, Greek mythology, Norse legends, and Celtic stories. So essentially, when we combine all this together, we start to see a pattern. All of these different people from around the world were talking about giants. All of them. So were giants actually real? From an archaeologist's standpoint, there's no confirmed evidence of a lost race of giants. However, humans were over 7 feet tall. They have found bones that have existed throughout history that were over 7 feet. Now think about it. Rare genetic conditions can also cause or produce extreme height. Ancient people encountered unusually tall individuals and could have possibly exaggerated the stories over generations. But if that's true, then why do these stories persist? Well, because maybe giant myths often represent a deeper symbolic theme, which could be the fall of older civilizations, battles between chaos and order, powerful ancestors or demigods. They also helped explain ancient ruins and landscapes that seemed impossible for normal humans to build. Think of Tartaria. So being that this 3-part series, I have discussed a little bit of my own heritage, How does this connect to my Celtic lineage? Coming from my father's R1b lineage. Well, being that it is tied to ancient Indo-European migrations, these cultures carried mythological traditions that evolved into Celtic legends, Greek myths, and Norse sagas. So while there's no genetic evidence linking R1b to literal giants, the cultures connected to the lineage persisted many of the world's most famous giant stories. Almost every ancient civilization about giants that existed before humanity, as we know it, from the Nephilim in the Bible to the Titans in Greece to the Jotnar from Norse mythology and the Fomorians of the Celtic legends. These were stories that could have been exaggerated of powerful ancient warriors. Or do you think that they preserved memories of something like much older? Because that's what I'm leaning to. This is a spark of curiosity with my pattern recognition. I am not claiming to know anything, and I am not claiming that anything is proven. But it does spark curiosity, especially if you believe that all truth eventually comes to light. Like, comment, follow for more, share. This is how we grow our community, guys. Lots of love. I hope you all have a wonderful day today.